Hi, everyone. Thank you, Edwina. I've loved the discussions we've had this morning in our very first Vogue Codes Country event. I hope you have too. Let's get started with our final Q&A, which is entitled Thriving in the Bush, How to Stay Adaptable. Please welcome the wonderful founder of birdsnest.com.au, Jane Kay. Please do ask your questions to Jane. It's an amazing opportunity to pick the brains of this incredible businesswoman and entrepreneur, so don't hesitate. Put your questions straight into the chat box. Hi, Jane. Thank you for being part of Vogue Codes. How are you?
Oh, good, thank you. Lovely to see you, Victoria.
You too. I'm imagining a chilly morning in Cooma?
It's actually glorious. It's a very beautiful day. So crisp, but you know you're alive.
Excellent. It's a good sign for the ski season or not?
Oh, look, I'm an internal optimist. So yes, let's hope so.
Of course you are. We are talking about adaptability today because you told me that one of your favourite quotes is one attributed to Charles Darwin that says, "It's not the strongest who survive, it's not the most intelligent who survive, but the most adaptable." Can you tell me a little bit about why you like that and how it drives your thinking?
No, well, it's so reassuring, isn't it? I mean, I think about the only thing that we can be really confident about in life is that it's going to continually and constantly change. And that's both in our personal lives and in our professional lives. So, I think, in my experience, I was having this corporate life. I fell in love with a farmer. I ended up on a sheep farm, an hour and a half round trip to get a carton of milk. So I had to very quickly adapt. And really my business and Birdsnest was born out of that need to adapt my skills from, quite a corporate and city-based sort of career into, a career that I could have in the country. And I knew nothing about retail, Victoria. Literally, I walked in that door the first day, turned the lights on, vacuumed the floors, and thought, here we go. So I learned so much on that shop floor serving women, and it was actually such a delight. And I realized that this thing called retail therapy was real. We really were having quite transformative kind of experiences in this store. And once we kind of ran out of women in the snowy mountains, I guess the logical thing was to go and open a store in another country town. But at the time, the digital economy was just kind of emerging, and this great opportunity to adapt, to what the new world looked like and take that leap. And we did that in 2008. And then we just grew and had to adapt and make mistakes along the way. So it really kind of formed the foundation. And luckily, because definitely not the smartest or the strongest. So
I'm not sure that's true, but such a great tale. I would just like to mention that 1.5 hours for the carton of milk must put real pressure on your supermarket shopping trips or your husband's.
We have a lot of milk in the freezer, let me tell you.
Of course. And obviously you've been really adaptable, as you say, going from, although you did grow up in Cooma, but going to the city, then back to Cooma. It's one thing for you to be adaptable, but how do you sort of create that culture that values adaptability within what's now a pretty big organisation? You've got around 150 people, I think.
Yes, I know. That's a lot of souls to be responsible for. I think, we learned early and probably through mistakes that that saying, I think it's a Peter Drucker saying, that culture eats strategy for breakfast, was super true. And actually getting clear on what was important to you first, and getting some clarity around that, and then hiring for that, celebrating that, measuring that. All those things needed to happen that I didn't know definitely for the first probably 4 years of being in business, 3 or 4. So we now have this thing that we affectionately call our bird song, and we have sort of 8 cultural values that form, I guess, part of our bird song. And R is for receptive. And this is all about, I guess, how we respond in the face of change. Because wouldn't it be nice if we could all be, open and curious about change? But, in the face of it, in the face of uncertainty and change, quite often we're paralyzed. Even if we're not paralyzed, we're certainly uncertain and feel a bit anxious. And I think, for those in the audience that are Brene Brown tragics or have a girl crush on her, she talks to us about vulnerability and leaning into that. And if we can lean into that, that really becomes, the birthplace of creativity and innovation and, managing change. So, it's a hard thing to ask people to do that. You can't just turn to your team and say, okay, look, when everything's uncertain and everything's changing, can you just all be really open to it? And because, to do that, you've really got to create a safe and nurturing place for them, because if it feels, otherwise we do all the natural things we do as humans in terms of getting defensive so that's, I feel like my major responsibility is to create an environment so the foundation of Birdsong is actually N for nurture, and that's all about, I guess, looking after yourself first and foremost, because, it's like that saying that when you get on a plane, and, we all haven't been on a plane for a while, but when you do, they say, look, put your oxygen mask on before assisting others. And, without that, it's very difficult to be adaptable.
Yeah, and that's, and I think it's something about being, a business that's led by a strong woman like you, that you would reference being vulnerable and Brene Brown. I don't think I've ever heard a male leader kind of take that approach. And that's amazing. And I know that you've been on a kind of journey yourself with burnout and mindfulness. We'll get to that in a little while, but just talking a little more about culture, because I know that it's something that you are really focused on. And you say that it was something you kind of had to learn how important it was. And there are a lot of, businesses that their sole focus is measuring culture. How do you, as the leader, kind of take the temperature of your company's culture?
Well, the first thing about temperature is that I think we have size on our side a little bit. We're just under that 140 mark, and there's actually quite a bit of research out there that says once a community or group gets, if it can stay under that 140, it's kind of this magic number around interactions and people being able to maintain relationships within that many people. And it's the first time I read about this was Simon Sinek. If anyone follows him, he wrote a book called Leaders Eat Last. It's a great book. And this is research by an anthropologist. I think his name's Robin Dunbar. And so I think, I'm really reluctant to get much bigger than 150 because I feel like I'm going to break something because it's really good now. But I think for us, we have 16 team leaders that, of course, within a team, we check in with our team. We, at that level, daily huddles, one-on-ones, those chats at the desk that checks in on someone. We have 3 beautiful women in our people and culture team, and we've positioned them where everyone comes in and out of the building, and we've given them 2 beautiful couches that people love to come and sit on, and they're all quite unique women. Like, one is just, she's a go-getter. She's got so much energy, enthusiasm for ideas. She's an activator. One is like super calm and cool and, great deep thinker, problem solver, and the other one is just the kindest, most generous person. So depending on the problem, I feel like people have access. But of course, there are the traditional, as you say, places that, like surveys. We've done the great places to work surveys where we've done the temperature across the whole business and tried to find themes, because we do really want to be a great place to come in and work every day. I mean, I have to come in and work there every day, so I want it to feel great as well. I don't want the temperature to be too hot to have a great time in. So we also measure when we know they're going to be stretched, because fashion, as you know, has like a cycle. So we know the times of the year when the team's going to be really stretched. And just before that, we have a nurture month. So every month we celebrate a different part of Birdsong. And everyone's favourite is Nurture Month because we bring in the masseurs. And, during COVID when we had to stop masseurs, we actually invested in a massage chair, which is like the Rolls Royce of massage chairs. So we do these things like if we feel like we're getting disconnected, we celebrate one flock and have cross-team lunches. And so many times we don't get it right. And of course, the temperature can be different across different teams. If anyone, this is somewhere I think we can infinitely learn. So that just gives you a bit of a taste, I guess, of what kind of things we do. I hope that, yeah. Yeah,
it definitely does. Nurture Month sounds incredible. And you sound, I guess, like quite a nurturing leader, probably a nurturing person. Is that how you describe your leadership style? Have you done a lot of reading and thinking about leadership because you've had to, start from you vacuuming the floor up to you and 140 people?
Oh yes, it's definitely been a journey. I would say I'm a relatively collaborative leader. I think in a way I need to be. I really want to bring people together, and together we can achieve something fabulous. And I think I need to do that because I can have an idea, but I don't have all the skills to make it come to life. We can all have ideas, but I have been clever enough to surround myself with really smart people and smarter than me at a lot of different things. So quite often I'll sense how the team feels about a new idea. Like it might be a new pop-up. Someone calls us and says, "Look, there's an opportunity to pop up down the coast or in Canberra," and sometimes the team are like, "Yeah, let's do this," and sometimes they're like, "Oh," and so even strategically, if it seems like quite a good idea, and the numbers could add up, but the team doesn't have it's not going to fit with everything else we're taking on at the moment, I would definitely totally pull back, because I know that I'm not the one that's going to be doing all that groundwork of getting it going. So we have a very flat structure. We also have some philosophies like, if in doubt, be generous and things, which I think empowers the team to be their own leaders and make decisions along the way. So I think that helps.
Yeah, that's really interesting and obviously important. I wonder if I know there's a lot of focus for everyone, as there should be, on diversity of many things, but including diversity of thought in your team. Mm-hmm. Is that a struggle for you as you're recruiting there? Are you finding that you have people coming from other countries, from the cities, to work with you in Cooma at Birdsnest?
We actually do. My most recent recruits, actually, which have been in the last 2 weeks, are from Argentina, South Africa, and China, which we are really lucky in Cooma. We're a really multicultural town where, the Snowy scheme was born here. We currently have Snowy 2.0 happening in town, and, all thousands of people are moving to this area to help build that huge project. And many of them are migrant families coming to town. So we're just so lucky to be able to tap into all that diversity.
And just sticking on leadership for a minute, are there any sort of lessons or ideas that you wish you had known earlier, which you'd share with someone who is more sort of embarking on the journey?
Look, I think leadership is as much about the hard conversations as it is about inspiring confidence, inspiring, I guess, commitment and excitement around an idea. And I found that really hard to start with. And, I'm a firstborn pleaser. I like everyone to be happy, but I had to come to terms with the fact that being a leader was not necessarily about keeping everybody happy. I recently had this conversation with a new headmistress of my girls' high school, actually, and knowing that, you're not necessarily always going to be popular for the conversations and things that you have to have, but quite often they just serve, when you move through them and you're able to do that in a compassionate way, then it really does serve the person or the group of people that you're looking after. And I think there's a great book by Patrick Lansoni called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and it was really helpful for me because it talked about the importance of conflict. And conflict was a word I would just run a mile from. And it really talked about how healthy conflict, if you've got trust at the base of that, if you can have healthy conflict and debate, then you can actually, that's how you get to the best result and a team committed to what they're doing, because they're all speaking up. So I had to get comfortable. I'm still getting comfortable with conflict, to be honest, but I know it theoretically and intellectually. Just got to do it in practice.
That is really hard. I identify with that. I'm a firstborn pleaser who hates conflict as well. I think afterwards what we need to do is we'll get a post for the vogue.com.au website with Jane Kay's reading list of all these resources that you've mentioned. I'm
a self-help tragic.
No, that's fantastic. I think it'll be really helpful for others too. And I did want to ask you about your journey with mindfulness and meditation, how that came about, whether you experienced some burnout or what sort of led you down that path, and how it's become a part of your business.
Yeah, sure. So this came, I guess, at a time that I was probably about 7 years ago, I was really out of balance. So, the business had grown really quickly, as we talked about, and we were probably at about 80 in the team. And it was the time, I don't know if people have watched The Intern or I was really questioning whether I needed a grown up to run this business, because I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was wired. I was underslept and running on adrenaline and stress. And I got a coach at the time who facilitated the leadership team, giving me some really valuable feedback, which I didn't hear any of the good stuff. There was some good stuff about how when I was calm, things were great, but when I was stressed, didn't serve anyone really very well. And I just hadn't actually put that together quite. I remember Googling it on New Year's Day, how do I calm down? And so I went on this mindful leadership retreat. It was in Bali, so it was not a hardship. And it was with Charlotta Tharup Owen, who's from the Mindfulness Clinic. If anyone wants to look up, she's an amazing teacher. And so through that, I was exposed, I guess, to this really ancient wisdom of meditation, as well as just this incredible, all the latest research, I guess, on neuroscience and how our brains work. And I didn't know all this stuff. I mean, I was a 30-something-year-old woman who had no idea how her brain worked, and that, being stressed and being a rational and compassionate person couldn't actually coexist. So, it was just such a gift of education and practice. And then, we really brought that back into the business as an education piece. So everyone that comes into Birdsnest has at least a full day with Charlotta learning about all this stuff. And then we have a daily practice in the business that you can tap into as well. So we've tried to kind of underpin it in the business as well for those who'd like to tap into it.
That's fantastic. Do you think that kids, I know that you have 3 kids yourself, do you think they're any better educated than you or we were about this kind of stuff?
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, they really turn it back on you once they understand it. Mum, I think you've lost control of your frontal cortex. So yes, delightfully so. Yes, and my middle child, Penny, she had the chance to go and we had a local person who did a class in the Cooma Library after school, and she could go and tap into that. And I think they've developed so many more tools. My eldest daughter has a gratitude journal, which she learned about through the Resilience Project, which is a great book as well, and a great book to listen to with teenagers. So I feel like, yes, they're being exposed much earlier to understanding what's going on for their brains. And so then they don't catastrophize that there's something wrong with them as well. It's just really the human experience.
Well, it's good to hear the next generation might do better than some of us, perhaps. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of your business a little bit. How do you build a software development team and a product team in Cooma?
It's a fluke. I don't know. It's a mix, I think, of luck and just being in the right place at the right time, and just putting it out to the universe, if you like. I remember for the software team, I remember back in 2006 Googling, how do I find a nerd? And I found this amazing, just such intelligent kid at the time, really, who was in second year uni doing software engineering. He built our site and was with us for, I think, at least 7 or 8 years. And then with the design team, and we have our software team is here in Cooma, and we have some remote people, or they might start with us and then they might work remotely, but our actual base of our software team is here, and also our design team and product development team. And that's, we've often started with quite a young team, so, like just out of uni, because we were learning how to produce and design clothes as well, that we were doing all of that for the first time. And then as we sort of grew up a bit, we brought in people that were a little bit more experienced that could help hold our hands through that quite complicated, world of production as well, and software development, really.
Yeah, which is fantastic. Have you seen a change, a pandemic-driven change? You mentioned Snowy 2.0, which is obviously a big driver of people moving to Cooma. Has there sort of been the tree change movement as well? What's been happening in Cooma?
Oh, you cannot get a park in Cooma, let me tell you. At the moment, Victoria, which is very unusual. I had to do the block twice to get my sandwich last week. I was like, what is happening here? So, yes, I think that the reality of a tree change is just so much more plausible, and feels like it could be really real for people, that they could talk to their boss about, working remotely and being, maybe just traveling up, every now and then. So I think, of course, for Cooma, we have this unique situation of Snowy 2.0. And as I said, we just recently hired some very interesting and fascinating people. It's very exciting. And at the moment, we're hiring someone from Sydney who is looking to move down. And I Googled, and there's 4 houses for rent in Cooma at the moment. We're only a town of 6,500, but 4 is very low, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to get her to move for the houses that are available right now. We might have to build. So yes, but we have this momentum that I think, is assisting us. So it's a quality problem to have, let's just say.
Yeah. Perhaps you need like a Birdsnest village.
Oh, you wait. You wait.
Okay. Have you? I know I've driven past. You have a big building in Cooma, which is your business and also a retail store. Have you had to make any changes there to account for more people visiting?
Oh, well, look, yes, our store is kind of already quite unique. Yes, it is located, and in behind it is the head office as well as our warehouse. So we have this sort of 200 or 300 square metre store that has access to a 2,000 square metre warehouse. So you really can come and have a massive try-on session, and we morph the technology in with the, so you can pretty much shop from the site anything you like and just add to the change room and come and try it on. So people enjoy the experience. But we have forever been talking about, really moving more into that experiential and tourism space and events. And we before COVID hit, we'd started playing with that, the Nest experience. You could come and have lunch, and I'd have lunch with the women that had come, and then you'd have a tour of the business and your own sort of private shopping experience. And that we're definitely growing. We're just currently building an extension to the store, which is like a luxury kind of like a girl's dream, basically, space where you can have groups of women and have sort of hire it and have that space to yourself. And on the weekend, I went to my very first auction, and we have just, for an 1870s stone, the most beautiful building. I've just always admired it. That is 2 duplex-like houses next to each other. And so now Birdsnest, the Birdsnest block begins, and we are extending our precinct. It's like a stone's throw from the store, so you can actually come and stay, and then we extend the whole experience. So we're playing with it, and it's the perfect time. We've never seen this many people come through the town and through the store, so it's a really perfect time to be pushing forward with all these ideas.
Congratulations. That's incredible news and fantastic. Do you think, we talked a little bit to Pip Brett earlier, how towns just need, 1 or 2 amazing things and then a whole lot of other amazing stuff pops up. Do you think Birdsnest is the sort of magnet for Cooma now?
Look, I'm not sure, but in our little precinct, the most beautiful homeware store, which was up the road, has just moved down to opposite us, called Alpine Abode. So I'm like, oh, that's a good sign. So I think Pip is onto something. So, if we can all collaborate together and, create reasons why people should come and visit our beautiful part of the world, then Orange has done such a fabulous job, and Pip, she's such an inspiration.
I hate to kind of bring us down now, because this is all super optimistic and positive, but I do want to ask you about the pandemic. It's still a conversation that we're having, and we've spoken about the really tough times that you faced at the very start of all that in March. Can you tell us how you felt back then?
Oh, look, yeah, talk about vulnerability. I think at the beginning it felt okay because it was all about safety. So that was such a good focus. It felt like an invigorating challenge. And we took it on like you would not believe. We were temperature checking. We'd zoned everyone. We had a whole new manual. We sort of went to town on that. But then all of a sudden, there were actually, more returns coming in the door than there were orders going out. And my sister, who was our accountant at the time, she was like, Jane, are you looking at these numbers? And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. And then she was like, no, you need to look at these numbers. And I'm like, oh, I just remember the feeling of the stomach dropping and just the instant thought of the 140 people I love and 100% committed to, and how quickly, because I am actually trained as an accountant, like everyone in my family, how quickly I knew those numbers would very quickly deteriorate into something that meant very serious conversation. So that was really, I couldn't sleep for the first time, and it was a very stressful time, but it was so short-lived, I think, relative to what so many people are going through. And I think what it did for us is the team just rallied. They carried, me, who was falling apart at the time, through it, and their commitment, and they're like, this community, it means so much to us. We will do anything to make sure we get through this. Just totally, I switched back on quite quickly, and it was like, right, okay, what now? And our team was so flexible, our suppliers were so flexible, and I feel like, all those strong relationships that you had really came into play, and, we got so lean and we learned so much. So in a way, I'm so grateful for that experience, and just still though, just so mindful of the fact that, so many people are still just really living with this virus, both, with affecting their loved ones as well as their businesses, and mostly abroad, but also in Australia as well.
Yeah, that's right. And then I think you had a recovery led by pull-on pants. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you have any stats you're able to share on pull-on pants, or how we all shopped in the last 12 months?
Well, yes, you invested a lot less in dresses, let me tell you, and dresses are 40% of our business. So we had to quickly think, oh, right. So I did actually do some research on this. I was fascinated myself, because I've been saying to people, oh, yes, you should have seen how many pull-on pants we sold, but I'll tell you how many we sold. So in that 9 months, between April to December, we sold, for us, it's a lot, 6,000 or 600,000 worth of pull-on pants and jeans, which is over $500,000. In that 9-month period, like while we were all sort of becoming pregnant, if you like, just putting on a few extra pounds, we definitely relied on our pull-on pants. So I think for us, we also had to make a huge pivot to Australian made, because a lot of our suppliers were really suffering and still suffering, particularly in India. We're trying as much as possible to support them through it, just saying, you can just deliver whenever you can. We'll try and sell dresses in winter or jackets in, we're trying to just support them through it, because it's super tough. And then the other thing that happened is our customer got, we really grew in our younger demographic. So our 25 to 34 age group grew by 60% during that time, which I thought was really interesting. Yeah,
that's incredible. And what are you looking at as the sort of opportunities for Birdsnest over the next year or 2 years?
Yeah, so I think just and the theme of today as well, we are just really focused on our beautiful regional home and inviting people to come and share it with us. So that is a really big focus. We're growing our store team and our kind of experience team. And the other thing is we've started our Rehatched, Birdsnest Rehatched, which is the ability to return to us pre-loved clothing. And then we've started our vintage days, and we see that will grow and grow again. That has a little bit of a local feel to it as well, because we're running those markets locally at the moment and hoping, I guess, to go online too within the next 12 months.
Fantastic. I think I can see a lot of audience questions rolling in. I think there's one about Rehatched, so I'll wait for that one. Before we do that, is there any advice that you'd give to people looking to start a business now? Because I think a lot of people have sort of rethought where they are in their life and their job, and they're kind of considering making a leap, but it still feels like a bit of a scary time. Do you have any advice for them?
Well, it was interesting. I was on Lisa Messenger's feed yesterday, and she asked this question, and someone answered, do it to make a difference and not to make money. You'll need the passion to persist. And it just got so much love. And I was like, it is so true. I think going into a business is like going into a marriage or a long-term relationship. You know, you need that foundation of just true passion and purpose and love, if you like, because you need it to stay resilient, because that stuff happens, and there's all the ups and downs of a long-term relationship, and that foundation is really, really important.
Okay, I've got lots of audience questions, so I'm going to start asking you some of those, Jane. Someone would like to know, would you ever consider taking Birdsnest into fields outside fashion?
Oh, well, look, I've had a go at a few things. we did menswear for a little while, and children's wear. So menswear, I thought, oh my gosh, there's going to be so many synergies in this. You know, we had 2 stores in the main street of Cooma. I know this is still fashion. Sorry, I'll get back to that. But it's different. And but at the heart of it, I was hopeless at men's fashion, because at the heart of it, the customer was so different. For women, it's such an emotional journey. And for men, it's like it's on their chores list, to go, and I have to go and get a shirt for a wedding, or and they're ticking it off, and the 2 for deals. And I just wasn't good at that sort of value-based, totally different customer. So I think, look, I would consider it if it really was still at the heart of what we were fulfilling for that customer. And, for us, we really want to see her have a journey where she feels more confident and more herself by connecting with us. And if there was something that helped in that process, I can see education would help in that process. I'm super keen to run mindfulness retreats or events or that kind of thing. So, extend to other areas that help with that inner confidence, I guess.
Just got to build that Birdsnest village first.
Yes,
and we'll all be there.
I need a bit more accommodation. So far, only, yeah.
That's right. Sarah in the audience is doing a marketing and media degree, and asked if you have any recommendations for breaking into the fashion industry. Oh,
okay. So I'm assuming as a marketing person as opposed to a designer, because if you're a designer, come and talk to us.
Okay.
But look, I think, like anything in life, you research the people that you'd love to work with, the types of organizations that you'd like to work with, and you put yourself out there. There's nothing more flattering to a business owner than receiving a custom made, here I am, and this is why I would love to work for your business, and this is what I can bring, and I will give you, you give me a chance and I won't let you down stuff. I mean, it's hard to resist that, to be honest.
Agree, totally. And I think just reaching out to people, not being afraid to do that is good advice.
Yeah, that is scary. I agree.
Someone has asked if you could talk a little bit about how you think about sustainability and your Rehatched program.
Yeah. So look, I think the way women think about their wardrobes is just going to change dramatically. It's starting to change, but I think we're going to see a massive change in the next 10 years. I think, we're already looking at renting our wardrobes. We're looking at, it's no longer taboo to be looking at pre-loved. In fact, it's really, almost cool. So, when things become cool, we get some momentum. And so I really think that's one way that we can really have an impact, is to make sure that our garment has a longer life. And the fashion industry has got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. My daughters, who are 15 and 16, are eco warriors. So, I live and breathe it every day. If I turn the heater on, I'm in so much trouble. Mum, just put a jumper on. So we live and breathe it in our house, which is, and if we're trying to, in every decision we make in the business, think, well, what's the impact of that? And for that, we need to get a lot of advisors to help us as well, because we can't be the expert in all of this stuff. And for lots of things, it's complex, particularly with recycling and all sorts of things, particularly in Australia at the moment. It's just knowing, one thing, it's recycling, but is it being recycled in Australia at the moment? It's a complex field. So But we're dedicating, I guess, the resources to try and get our heads around it and just constantly improve.
Fantastic. You mentioned your daughters. Are they interested in the business, in going into the business, in having input into what you're doing? The teenagers, I'm sure they're trying to have input.
Look, I mean, both of my girls, their staple wardrobe is work pants and RB Sellers shirts. They have about 10 colours in each, and they're very faded and have a lot of holes. Even when we're going out for dinner in like quite a, I'm like, do you think could we at least wear one without some holes in the, like through the elbow? Or so yeah, at this stage, fashion definitely not. But they are really interested in, they love the team culture. They're really interested in kind of organisations, how they work, team culture. They came for our first rehatch day, worked on that. They came for our first tree planting day because we raised, I think, $20,000. $20,000 out of that to plant trees, and we had planted our first 1,000 trees, so they came along to that. So they're interested in the things the business is involved in and doing, not so much the fashion just yet. But, things could change.
And lastly, we have a comment, less of a question and more of a comment. One of our viewers has said, it is not just women wanting the tours. Her husband is totally inspired by you and mentions your business all the time when discussing their own business. So you're a role model for people everywhere. Yeah,
bring on the boys. Yeah, the boys love the warehouse too. They like looking at all the tubs and the systems and stuff. So yeah, boys are welcome on tour.
Fantastic. That's another piece of accommodation for you to build. And I think that's all we have time for, sadly, today, Jane. Thank you so much for your time. And I think talking about adaptability is really valuable. It's obviously an essential part of living in the regions, but it's important to all of us as humans, no matter where we live. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Victoria.
On behalf of Edwina and the Vogue team, a big thank you to our presenting partner Optus and our supporting partners Audi and Estee Lauder. And of course, a big thank you to everyone watching for being here today. For more information on all of our incredible speakers today and the full list of Vogue Codes events for this year, head to vogue.com.au/codes to register. Thanks so much.